My name is Trooper Michael Hale, and I've spent 14 years with the Maine State Police, most of them patrolling the quiet, pine-choked roads around Millinocket. Up here, the woods feel endless, big enough to hide anything, old enough to remember it. People talk about moose, bear, and the occasional cougar that wanders too far north, but no one warned me about the thing with the green eyes. It was late October, the kind of night where the fog rolls in thick and low, hugging the trees until they look like skeletons rising up from the dirt. I was running a standard perimeter check near Route 57, heading toward the outskirts of Baxter State Park. Tourists were gone for the season, which meant the only calls we'd get were from lost hunters or abandoned cars. I had just passed an empty turnout when something strange cut through the fog, a flash of movement along the tree line. Not quick, not darting like a deer. Slow, deliberate. I nearly brushed it off until my radio crackled with a burst of static so sharp it made my teeth ache. "Unit, Hale, copy." The transmission warped, bending like someone dragging metal across a steel plate. I grabbed the mic. "Dispatch, Unit 12, you're breaking up." Silence. Then another burst, this time a low hum under the static, like a distant generator buried underground. Something felt wrong. The fog hung heavy like a curtain, and the pines along the roadside were unnaturally still. No wind, no owls, no insects. Just the quiet breathing of the forest. I slowed to a stop and stepped out, the air cold enough to bite through my jacket. My boots crunched the gravel as I scanned the tree line with my flashlight. The beam cut through the fog in a thin column, landing on branches, rocks, and wet moss. Then, the smell hit me. A strange mix of damp leaves and something metallic, like oxidized iron soaking in cold water. "Hello?" I called out. "State Police? If someone's out there, identify yourself." The forest didn't answer. Instead, a shape emerged from between the trees. Tall, slender, too slender. At first I thought it was a man, maybe a hunter wearing dark gear. But no human I've ever seen moved that quietly or stood that still. My hand drifted toward my holster. "Sir, step into the open," I ordered. The shape took one step forward, and that's when the fog thinned just enough for me to see its eyes. Two green lights, glowing. Not like an animal reflecting a flashlight. These glowed from within, bright as bioluminescent stone. The creature froze, half-shrouded, half-visible, its eyes locked on mine. My pulse hammered. "Don't move," I whispered, not sure if I meant it for the creature or myself. It shifted its head, just barely, as if studying me. The movement was smooth, too smooth, almost fluid. It had to be around 7 feet tall, maybe more, and its limbs hung too long, its shoulders too narrow. Something about it felt unfinished, like a sketch of a human someone never completed. The radio on my belt hissed, louder this time. A metallic voice crackled through the static. "Unit Hale, leave." I flinched. "Dispatch, say again?" "Leave. Leave." Except, it wasn't Dispatch's voice. It wasn't even human. Cold washed over me, heavy and sudden, like the temperature had dropped 10 degrees in seconds. The creature took another step. The fog swirled around its legs, not through them, but around them, as if avoiding contact. My instincts screamed to back away, but my training kept me rooted. I lifted the flashlight higher, its beam shaking. The creature reacted instantly. Its eyes flared brighter, jolting to a vivid, unnatural green. It raised its head toward the sky and let out a low, vibrating hum, the sound resonating through the trees and up the road like it was echoing inside my chest. "Enough," I muttered, voice cracking. "Stay back." The creature stopped humming, and then it smiled. a thin, unnatural curve spreading too slowly across its face. There were no lips, no teeth, just a shifting fold of skin stretching into something that resembled a smile, something mimicked, copied, and not meant for a human face. My body finally reacted before my brain did. I stumbled back toward the cruiser, trying to keep my eyes on the thing without falling over. The creature didn't move. It only watched. I reached the driver's side door when a loud crack ripped through the woods behind it, like a branch breaking under immense weight. Then another, and another. Movement in the trees, more than one shape shifting between trunks. "Jesus," I whispered, "there's more of them." I dove into the cruiser and slammed the door. The radio erupted with static so violent it rattled the speakers. The last thing I saw before peeling out onto the road was the creature stepping toward the edge of the tree line, its eyes burning green through the fog, following me, and smiling. I didn't stop until I reached the station. No one believed me, of course. Technical malfunction, fog distortion, moose eyes maybe. But moose don't smile, and moose don't make your radio speak your name in a metallic, inhuman voice. Sometimes, on late patrols, I catch a flash of green in the distance off Route 57. Never close, never far, just watching. And I know, if I ever stop the cruiser and step out again, it will be waiting. My name is Officer Glenn Drayton, and after 9 years working both traffic and motorcycle patrol out of Pahrump, Nevada, I thought the desert had shown me every trick it could pull. Mirages, dust devils, abandoned cars lit like stage props under the moon. Things that make you question your depth perception, but never your sanity. But what happened on Highway 372 still wakes me up some nights, sweat cold on my neck, engine noise ringing in my ears. It was close to 2 a.m., the witching hour for drunk drivers and desert wanderers. The sky was clear, so clear it felt hollow, and the moon was low enough to let the stars carry most of the light. I had taken my patrol motorcycle that night, partly because the shifts were quieter, and partly because there's a freedom in cruising open desert roads with no sound but the engine and your own breath inside your helmet. I had just passed the turnoff toward Tacopa Road when I noticed it, a single bright light hovering low on the horizon. Not a plane, not a drone, not a star. It was too bright, too steady. A white sphere glowing like a welding arc, but cold somehow. Cold-looking, if that makes sense. At first, I told myself it was nothing, just another night in a landscape built to play mind games. But when I took a left curve, leaning in, the light curved with me, perfectly, instantly, like it was locked onto my path. A voice in the back of my mind whispered, "Don't look at it again." Of course, I did. It had gotten closer, much closer. "Dispatch, this is Unit M7, I said into my mic, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Possible aerial anomaly westbound 372, over." Static answered me. Not radio static, a metallic humming static that made my teeth ache. I sped up. The sphere sped up. The desert wind slapped my helmet as I moved from 50 to 60 to 75 miles per hour. The bike hummed under me, the asphalt blurred, but the sphere stayed the same distance away, maybe 300 feet up, maybe 200 feet back, pulsing, watching. The hair beneath my helmet prickled. "Dispatch, do you copy?" I repeated. Nothing. The sphere brightened. For a moment, the whole road glowed white, as if daylight had burst from nowhere. The shadows of the Joshua trees stretched into sharp, unnatural shapes across the sand. I swallowed hard. Okay, stay calm. Just ride. The sphere dipped lower, and suddenly, the engine sputtered. Not a stall, not a fuel issue, a strangled, drowning sputter like the motorcycle had been dunked underwater. No, "No, no, come on, girl," I muttered, slamming the throttle, tapping the clutch. The bike roared back to life. Above me, the sphere pulsed brighter, almost like it had reacted. The humming in my radio intensified. Then a voice, or something pretending to be a voice, whispered through the static. "Drayton." My blood went ice cold. "Dispatch," I barked. "Is anyone hearing this?" The static vanished. Silence. Just the wind and the engine. I kept riding. I don't know why. Maybe instinct, maybe stupidity. But I didn't turn back. I just kept the bike steady, eyes forward, resisting the urge to look anywhere but the road. For 20 minutes, the sphere followed me, not gaining, not losing distance, just there, matching every curve, every lean, every shift of speed. The desert around me no longer felt empty. It felt crowded, like the dark had eyes. When I finally reached the outskirts of Pahrump again, the sphere climbed higher. Its glow dimmed, and without a sound, without a trail, without even a flicker, it vanished, just winked out like someone had flipped a switch. My radio crackled to life. "M7, this is dispatch. We lost you for a bit. Do you need assistance?" I pulled over, chest heaving, hands trembling around the handlebars. "Negative," I said, voice raw. "I'm fine." "Copy that. Any sign of the aircraft you called in?" Aircraft? I almost laughed. "No," I whispered. "No aircraft." I rode back to the station without incident, the bike humming like nothing had happened. But when I shut the engine off, a faint warmth lingered on the back of my neck, like someone had been staring at me for a long, long time. For days afterwards, I dreamed of the sphere, floating, watching, waiting. And sometimes, when I'm alone on a highway at night, I see a flash in the sky, a flicker of white, and I feel that same cold prickle crawl up the back of my spine. Like it never really left, like it remembers me, like it's waiting for the next patrol. You're listening to Lurking Moon. If the story keeps you company tonight, please like and subscribe.
My name is Officer Isabella Izzy Garner, and I've walked the night patrol routes around Brickell, Miami long enough to know the difference between a shadow, a drunk tourist, and something that shouldn't be there at all. Brickell looks polished during the day. Glass towers, neon cocktails, the hum of business deals and luxury cars. But after midnight, the district changes. The alleys breathe differently. The air gets heavier. And sometimes, just sometimes, the streets remember the dead. The night it happened, I was assigned to the community patrol route along SE First Avenue, a quieter stretch between the banks and the residential towers. Midnight had just passed, and the warm Miami humidity was clinging to my vest like a second skin. The breeze carried the smell of the bay mixed with gasoline, comforting in a strange, gritty way. Brickell at night is never fully silent, but on that shift, something felt off. No laughter from the bars, no late joggers, not even the usual electric hum from the metro rail overhead. Just empty streets, washed in the orange glow of the streetlights. I was halfway through the block when I heard it, soft crying. Not loud, not dramatic, just broken. "Hello?" I called out. "This is Officer Navarro. Is someone hurt?" The crying stopped instantly. I swept my flashlight across the sidewalk, catching the glint of the metal bike racks, a few scattered palm leaves, the corner of a darkened cafe. Nothing unusual. But then, movement. A figure turned the corner from SE 11th Street and drifted into view. And I do mean drifted. My stomach nodded immediately. She was a woman, young, maybe late 20s, with long black hair cascading over a pale white dress that fluttered behind her like it was underwater. Her arms hung at her sides, her head tilted slightly, as if she were listening for something. But what froze me where I stood was what wasn't there. Her legs. They were just gone. Her body ended mid-thigh, dissolving into a misty, translucent shape that floated inches above the ground. No feet touching the pavement, no weight, no sound. She glided across the asphalt as if gravity had never learned her name. My throat tightened. My hand went to my radio. "Dispatch, I've got a possible distress situation on SE First Avenue. Female subject. I need backup." The radio fizzed with static, then died completely. The woman turned her head toward me. Her face was blank. No blood, no wounds, but her eyes. Her eyes looked like deep pools of black water, reflective, empty, pulling. She floated closer. "Ma'am?" I said, taking a steady step back. "Can you hear me?" Her mouth trembled open as if to answer, but only a faint breath escaped, a sound like wind moving through an abandoned hallway. She reached out a hand, not suddenly, not violently, gently, almost pleading. "Do you need help?" I asked again. She paused and nodded. That simple gesture hit me harder than anything else. A ghost would frighten me, a hallucination might confuse me, but something that understood me, that communicated, made the night shift feel suddenly too real and too unreal at the same time. "Okay," I said, sliding my flashlight down so it wouldn't blind her. A sharp metallic screech echoed from the alley behind her, like something dragging across concrete. The woman's head jerked violently toward the noise, and her face, God, her face twisted into an expression of sheer terror. Not fear of me, not fear of existing, fear of whatever was behind her. She backed away, hand shaking, eyes widening. For the first time, she moved with urgency, gliding backward as if pulled by an invisible current. "Ma'am," I called out, "what's happening? Talk to me." She looked at me, and her face softened, like she was grateful, like she was saying goodbye. Then her body shuddered, rippled, and shattered into drifting wisps of white mist that scattered into the humid Miami air. Gone. Just gone. I rushed into the alley she had been facing, adrenaline pounding through my skull. The flashlight beam shook across dumpsters, graffiti-covered walls, stacks of cardboard. The air smelled metallic, thick with something old, something rotten. And then, from deeper in the alley, soft footsteps echoed. Slow, deliberate. I froze, bringing my hand to my holster. "Who's there?" I demanded. No answer, just another step. Then another. I backed out of the alley before whatever was moving could reach me. Dispatch finally crackled to life as I hit the main street. "Dispatch, Officer Navarro? We lost your signal for minutes. Do you need units?" I looked at the empty street, at the place where the woman had vanished, at the alley where something unseen still shifted in the dark. "No," I whispered, "just keep an open line." I finished my shift, but I couldn't shake the image, the black-eyed woman floating over brickle pavement, terrified of something I never got to see. And now, every night I walk those blocks, I listen for crying. Sometimes I swear I hear it. Sometimes I see a flash of white drifting between palm trees. And every time I look toward that same alley, I feel something staring back. Something she was running from. Something that still hasn't left.
My name is Officer Danny Colton, and I've patrolled the stretch of Highway 82 outside Greenwood, Mississippi, long enough to know what belongs on that road and what doesn't. I've seen every kind of late-night driver, farm hands, long-haul truckers, drunks trying to outrun their own shadows. But nothing, not in all my years under that dark Delta sky, prepared me for the night the Silver Man crossed the highway and vanished like smoke. It was a quiet shift, the kind of quiet that makes your skin crawl because the world feels like it's waiting for something to happen. The humidity hadn't broken yet, so the air hung thick, clinging to the cruiser's windows. I was heading eastbound past the tree line near Browning Road, the headlights carving tunnels through the darkness. The radio was silent except for the faint crackle of static, the kind that always shows up on hot nights. Around 1:40 a.m., I caught movement on the shoulder, something tall, reflective, moving in a strange, gliding way that didn't match anything human. I slowed down instinctively, leaning forward in my seat. At first, I thought it was a person in some kind of metallic clothing, maybe a runner wearing survival gear, maybe a motorcyclist without their bike. But when my headlights caught it full on, my breath stopped. It was a man, or man-shaped at least, but his body didn't look like flesh. It looked metallic, shiny, smooth, like his entire form had been cast from liquid mercury. He crossed from the tree line toward the opposite shoulder with slow, deliberate strides, but there was no sound, no bending of the grass, no displacement of weight. The figure moved as though he wasn't touching the earth at all. My cruiser rolled to a full stop on the highway. "Dispatch?" I murmured, hand shaking on the radio. "I've got a pedestrian on 82, possible medical issue or something else. I need backup." Static. Then a sharp burst of high-pitched distortion. I tried again. "Dispatch, do you copy?" More static, louder this time, like the radio was being dragged underwater. The figure stopped in the middle of the road. He turned his head toward me. Not turned, rotated. Too smooth, too precise, as if his neck were a swiveling mechanism rather than bone. My hands froze on the steering wheel. His eyes glowed faintly, not bright, not dramatic, but enough to reflect twin silver points in the darkness. A strange, low hum vibrated through the car. I felt it more than I heard it, like it was coming from inside my own chest. My skin prickled. The cruiser's lights flickered. The silver man lifted his arm, slowly, perfectly, like he was scanning me. I swallowed hard and stepped out of the cruiser, unsure if it was bravery, stupidity, or some instinct telling me not to let him vanish without a witness. "Sir," I called out, my voice cracking, "are you injured? Do you need assistance?" He didn't answer, didn't move, didn't react, just watched me. The hum deepened. My radio came alive with a burst of garbled noise, like a dozen voices whispering through a broken speaker. Just sounds. Then the figure flickered, like a bad hologram. His outline distorted for a split second, then sharpened again. His torso rippled as though a breeze passed through him, but the air around me was still. I took a step back. Okay, I'm just gonna call this in." The silver man took one final step onto the shoulder and began to fade. Not disappear, fade, like someone turning down the opacity on a digital image. First, his legs shimmered into nothing, then his torso, then his arms. Last were the eyes, two small silver points hovering in the dark, blinking out like dying embers. Silence swallowed the highway. Only the sound of distant crickets returned, like someone had unpaused the night. I stood alone in the middle of 82, shaking, sweat dripping down my back despite the cool breeze that suddenly washed over the road. The radio clicked. "Unit 12, this is dispatch. You called in a pedestrian?" My mouth went dry. "Yeah, you didn't hear the rest of my transmission?" "Negative. Line was silent for several minutes." I looked at the place where the silver man had vanished. The grass was untouched, the pavement was cool, but the air still felt wrong, charged, like static clinging to my skin. "Send a unit," I said quietly. Something was out here. We searched for an hour. Nothing. No tracks, no metallic residue, no sign of a person. Just empty Mississippi highway stretching into the Delta night. Even now, every time I patrol 82, I scan the shoulders, half expecting to see that shimmering figure waiting at the tree line. And sometimes, When the moon is low and the fog rolls across the asphalt, I swear I see a faint outline hovering in the dark, watching, waiting, almost remembering me. Because whatever that thing was, I don't think it crossed my path by accident.
The child with no footprints. Canine Unit, Colorado. My name is Marlene Vega, and there are nights when I still hear that child crying the moment I close my eyes. Working canine for Fort Collins Police Services has put me into every kind of situation. Runaways in the foothills, lost hikers, elderly walk-offs, cases that stick to you but eventually fade. But nothing fades from Poudre Canyon. Nothing ever does. It's the kind of place where the wind doesn't feel like wind at all, more like breath, and where the pine trees shift as if they're listening in. The canyon walls swallow sound too easily, leaving you with the feeling that someone is standing right behind you, even when you know you're alone. The night it happened, snow covered everything in a clean, soft layer. Perfect conditions for scent tracking, perfect for footprints, perfect for finding anyone lost out there. Which is why the 911 report didn't make sense. A child screaming somewhere near Poudre Falls, no cars seen, no hikers reported missing, no reason for a kid to be in that cold, in that wind, in that isolation. I loaded Coda, my Belgian Malinois, into Unit K912, and we headed up Highway 14. The cruiser's headlights carved pale tunnels through the fog rolling in from the river. Coda paced behind me, her tail low, her ears twitching in that uneasy rhythm dogs get when they sense something they don't like but can't name. When I pulled into the turnout near the falls, the world felt muted. No wind, no river sound, not even the usual creaking of the trees. Just a thin cold that wrapped around my spine. K9 12 on scene, I said into the radio. Beginning grid. Static hissed back. Dispatch confirmed, but their voice felt distant, like it came from underwater. We had barely taken 10 steps when it happened. A scream, sharp, high, slicing through the canyon like a blade. Coda stiffened instantly. Her legs locked, her tail tucked, her nose high. I'd never seen her react like that. She didn't bark, she didn't growl, she just trembled. We followed the sound down the slope, crunching through the untouched snow. The cold deepened the closer we got. The mist drifted across the ground like it had weight. Then I saw him. A child, small, barefoot, standing near a cluster of trees, shoulders shaking as he cried into his hands. "Hey, sweetheart," I called softly. "I'm Officer Vega. I'm here to help you." He didn't react, not at first. His crying stopped, but his hand stayed over his face. He stood there, trembling. Coda pressed against my leg. Her breathing quickened. I tightened my grip on her harness. The boy slowly lowered his hands. His eyes were wrong, sunken, too dark, like shadowed bruises instead of pupils. His skin looked drained of life, the kind of cold pale you see on hypothermia cases. But worst of all, the snow around him was perfect, untouched, a flawless sheet. No footprints leading in, no footprints beneath him, no footprints anywhere. "Are you hurt?" I whispered. The boy stared at me, blinked once, blinked again. Then his mouth opened, and he screamed. Not like a child, not like any living thing. The sound hit me like pressure, vibrating through my teeth, running like liquid ice into my ears. Coda let out a broken whine and tried to pull backwards, dragging me with her. The boy stepped toward us. The snow didn't move. He hovered, no weight, no shift, no indentation, just gliding across the surface as if gravity hadn't noticed him. I stepped back slowly, my pulse slamming against my ribs. "Dispatch, Canine 12, possible." My radio shrieked with distortion. "Marlene, do not. Repeat, do not." Then silence. The boy kept coming. 3 feet away, 2 feet. Close enough that I could see faint puffs of breath drifting from him, but so faint they almost weren't real. He tilted his head, watched me, watched Coda. Then he vanished. Not faded, not blurred, just gone. The crying continued, echoing from the canyon walls, from the trees, from the river, everywhere at once. The sound circled us like a storm trapped in a bottle. I stumbled backwards, gripping Coda's harness as she whined and pressed herself into my leg for protection. When backup arrived almost half an hour later, the crying stopped. Snow looked untouched. The air warmed by a few degrees. Nothing. No child, no tracks, no evidence. But when I returned to my cruiser, I found something waiting for me. Tiny handprints, wet, faint, perfectly shaped, pressed into the trunk of my car. No other marks in the snow, no approach, no retreat, just the hands of a child that left no footprints. To this day, whenever Coda and I patrol Poudre Canyon, she refuses to look out the rear windows. She faces forward, ears pinned, breathing tense. And sometimes, on the coldest nights, I swear I hear that same distant crying from the back seat. Quiet, broken, waiting.
The 911 call from the sky. Dispatch and Patrol, Alaska. My name is Dispatcher Elena Markham, and in the 5 years I've worked for Nome Police Communications, I've heard every kind of panic a human voice can make. Screams, gasps, hyperventilation. The silent terror of someone hiding from a break-in. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the call that didn't come from land, sea, or any registered line. It came from the sky. The night it happened, Nome was in one of its February moods, cold enough to freeze your eyelashes, quiet enough to feel like the whole world was holding its breath. The kind of night where even the usual calls slow down. I was alone on graveyard shift, sipping toffee that tasted like old pennies, and listening to the hum of the servers behind me. Around 2:13 a.m., the board lit up. Not with a number, not with a location. Just incoming 911, unknown source. I frowned. That wasn't supposed to happen. Our system always gives something. Coordinates, cell tower ID, landline address, something. But this just blinked red like a heartbeat. I plugged in my headset. 911, what's your emergency? Static. Heavy. Low. Vibrating through the line like machinery idling in a metal chamber. Then I heard a voice. Except it wasn't a voice. Not human, anyway. It sounded metallic, layered, like someone speaking through a broken synthesizer. The syllables came out clipped, sharp, wrong. To Kate Ed above? I sat upright. Caller, repeat your location? More static. Then another voice overlapped the first, the same metallic distortion, almost as if two signals were fighting over the line. Cannot land. Cannot land. Ice crawled down my spine. This wasn't a prank. Nobody could fake the atmospheric distortion I was hearing. Are you in an aircraft? Silence. Then, a burst of tones, too fast to be Morse, followed by something that sounded like breathing, but not through lungs, through machinery. At the same moment, the mapping screen in front of me flickered, glitching like a corrupted file. A single dot appeared off the grid, far outside any tower range. The coordinates didn't make sense. Nothing should be out there. It showed the signal coming from directly above Nome. Straight up. Thousands of feet. In the air. My pulse hammered. I patched through to the nearest patrol unit. Unit 24, this is dispatch. Do you copy? Officer Max Keller answered immediately, groggy but alert. Copy dispatch. What's up? I have an unidentified 911 call coming from aerial coordinates above town. Are you in a position to scan the sky from Front Street? He paused. Above town? Affirmative. Check for aircraft in distress. Another voice cut through the line. Not Keller, the metallic thing again. Observe. 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 Keller stopped breathing for half a second. Dispatch, who the hell was that? It's the caller. They're still on the line. Does it sound non-human? Yes. Snow hammered the roof as a sudden gust hit the building. A storm wasn't on radar, but the wind roared like something descending fast. Keller spoke again, slightly breathless. Dispatch, I'm on Front Street. Looking up now. A pause. Then, Jesus. There's something above the cloud line. What kind of something? It's shimmering. Not solid, like heat haze, but dark. It's moving too slow to be a plane. The metallic voices grew louder in my headset. Can not remain. Can not remain. Then another phrase, clearer, distorted, but unmistakably directed at us. No footing. No ground. No entry. Keller sucked in a breath. Elena, something just passed over me. I don't see anything solid, but I feel it. The air pressure just dropped. My ears popped. The lights in the dispatch center flickered. Every monitor flashed bright white, then went dark for a second. The temperature in the room dropped enough that I could see my breath. The caller spoke again. This time, only one voice. Slow. Direct. We are not permitted to land. Then another glitch. The coordinates on my screen began rising. Up, 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 as if the source was lifting away from Earth at impossible speed. Keller, I said, my voice cracking. Do you still see anything? He didn't answer. Keller? Finally, softly. It's gone. The 911 signal evaporated. The line went dead without disconnecting. Just silence. The storm outside stopped instantly. No wind. No snow. Not even the sound of distant waves. I logged everything, but the system rejected half the details, as if the data had never existed. The coordinates vanished from the logs entirely. The recording of the call contained nothing but static. Nothing metallic, nothing non-human, just static. But later that morning, Keller came to my desk. His uniform was still dusted with snow. He leaned in close so no one else could hear. It wasn't a plane, he whispered. Whatever was up there didn't have wings. It didn't move like anything built on Earth. Then he added something that has haunted me ever since. When it passed over me, the snow under my boots lifted off the ground. I didn't sleep for 2 days after that. And sometimes when I work graveyard shift, the board flashes red for half a second, like a heartbeat. No number, no location, just incoming 911, unknown source. It never connects, but I know they're still up there, listening, trying to make contact, trying and failing to reach the ground. And I'm terrified for the day they finally do.
The Phantom Car of Amarillo, Traffic Division, Texas. My name is Officer Darren McLean, and I've been with the Amarillo Traffic Division long enough to know when something on the road is real and when something is not. I've seen drunk drivers blow through stoplights, teenagers race down Coulter Street like it's the Indy 500, and ranchers haul livestock trailers that look ready to fall apart at the seams. But nothing has ever gotten under my skin like the night we chased the car that didn't exist. It was just past midnight on a Wednesday, the kind of quiet Amarillo gets when all the bars have closed and even I-40 feels like a ghost highway. The wind was kicking dust across the asphalt and my patrol car hummed as I cruised along South Georgia Street, keeping an eye on the usual suspects: late deliveries, stray cattle trucks, and the occasional reckless pickup. Nothing unusual. Then, dispatch crackled through my radio. Unit 14, be advised, multiple 911 calls reporting a silver sedan driving without lights on the loop. Speed estimated over 90. I keyed my mic. Copy that, dispatch. I'll intercept from Sansi. I switched on my lights and slipped onto the access road. Amarillo at night has this strange stillness to it, like the city is holding its breath. Even the street lights flicker differently. The further west you drive, the darker it gets, until the plains swallow everything. I reached Loop 335 in under 2 minutes, and there it was. A silver 4-door sedan, not flashy, not old, just ordinary, drifting across lanes like the driver was sleepwalking behind the wheel. No headlights, no taillights, just the faint reflection of my emergency bar glinting off the trunk. Unit 14, visual on suspect vehicle, initiating pursuit, I radioed. The sedan suddenly accelerated, gliding ahead like it weighed nothing. My cruiser roared as I pushed past 80, then 90, then 95. Even then, I barely gained on it. What struck me immediately was the way it moved. Smooth, too smooth. Cars don't glide like that. They bounce, they vibrate. This one didn't. Driver of the silver sedan, pull over immediately, I called through the PA system. No reaction. Not even a twitch. We approached the Western Street overpass, and that's when the sedan swerved violently into the shoulder. My heart lurched. There was a metal construction barrier along the entire right side of the bridge. a solid slab of reinforced steel hammered into the concrete. The sedan didn't slow down, didn't brake, didn't even fishtail. It passed straight through the barrier. My mind went blank. I hit the brakes so hard the cruiser shuddered, tires screeching across the asphalt as I came to a stop inches from the same barrier the sedan had just dissolved into. "Unit 14 to dispatch," I shouted. "Vehicle just went through the guard wall. Western overpass. I need additional—" My radio erupted with static. Not normal static. This sounded wet, warped, like a whisper caught between frequencies. Then a voice, faint, metallic. "Not here. Not living. Not here." I jerked away from the mic. "Dispatch? Repeat that?" Silence. Then, "Unit 14, we didn't transmit. Say again?" Cold crawled up my spine. I stepped out of the cruiser, my boots crunching gravel as I approached the barrier. It was solid. Absolutely solid. I ran my gloved hand along the metal surface, cold, real, untouched, no dents, no impact marks, nothing to show a car had ever come near it. Backup arrived, Units 3 and 9. Both officers staring at me like I'd hallucinated the whole pursuit. "There's nothing here, Darren," Officer Leland said. "No skid marks, no debris, nothing." "I saw it," I insisted, "and I have dash cam footage." Except I didn't. When I checked the dash cam, the display was frozen on a single still frame, the moment right before I hit the brakes. The sedan? Gone. Replaced by a smear of static across the screen. We searched for an hour. No vehicle, no driver, no tracks on the dirt roads leading away. Nothing. Then, Unit 9's radio crackled. Same warped static, same metallic whisper. "Still driving, still here." We all froze. Leland swallowed hard. "Tell me that was dispatch." It wasn't. Dispatch confirmed no transmission. We filed the report as a false pursuit triggered by misidentified vehicle. But none of us believed that. Not really. Amarillo officers talk, and over the following weeks, I heard versions of the same story. An old sedan seen cruising the loop with dead headlights, vanishing near the same overpass. Some say it's the car from the fatal pileup back in 1998, the one that got crushed under a semi-truck and burned so hot that the VIN melted. Some say the driver never realized he died, that he's still trying to make it home on the roads he traveled every day. But I know what I saw, and I know what the radio said. That wasn't a person. That wasn't a living driver. That was something stuck on repeat. Something replaying its last drive over and over and over, forever, trapped in a loop of its own. And sometimes, when I clock in for night shift and roll out on the loop, I catch a glint of silver ahead of me. No lights, no plate, just a blur that disappears the moment I look straight at it.
I don't chase it anymore, because whatever that thing is, it doesn't want to be caught.
The woman at mile marker 19, Mounted Police, Tennessee. My name is Officer Jacob Riles, and I've ridden the trails around Gatlinburg long enough to know what the woods sound like when they're alive, and what they sound like when something's wrong. Horses know it too. They feel it first. They always do. And the night we reached mile marker 19, my horse, Thunder, felt it before I ever saw her. It was late fall, the kind where the leaves rot under a cool dew and the forest floor smells rich enough to choke you. The Park Service had asked for mounted patrol sweeps along a few back trails near Roaring Fork after hikers reported someone crying in the distance. Never a precise direction, just crying, carried on the wind. Gatlinburg draws all kinds of folks, tourists, locals, wanderers who come for the quiet. But crying in the woods after dark, that's always a problem. I saddled up Thunder and started my route just before sundown, letting him take the familiar path. He was calm at first, his ears turning towards cicadas and owls, the usual nightlife orchestra. The amber glow of the sky filtered through the branches, casting those long, thin shadows that make the woods look older than they are. By the time I reached mile marker 17, the air had changed. It thickened. Not with fog, not with humidity, just a stillness that felt unnatural, like the forest was waiting for something. Thunder's ears pricked straight up. His steps slowed. He kept trying to turn his head toward the left side of the trail, into the dark cluster of pines where the undergrowth swallowed the moonlight whole. "Easy, boy," I murmured, patting his neck. "Just the wildlife settling in." But it wasn't. I knew it. Thunder knew it. The woods knew it. We rode another half-mile in that eerie quiet, nothing but the sound of his hooves pressing into damp soil. When we approached mile marker 19, he stopped dead. Not just paused, stopped, rooted to the spot. His breath grew rapid and sharp in the cool air. That's when I heard it. A woman crying, soft, almost polite, as if she didn't want to disturb the forest around her. "Hello?" I called out, my voice breaking the strange stillness. The crying didn't stop. It didn't get louder or closer. It just continued, like it was stuck in a loop. Thunder shifted beneath me, nervous, his muscles tight as steel cables. His eyes fixed on a break in the trees ahead, where moonlight caught the faint outline of a figure. A woman, barefoot, white dress torn at the hem, standing just past the marker, half hidden by the moss-covered trunks. "Ma'am," I said gently, "stay where you are. I'm coming to assist you." She didn't turn. Didn't run, didn't even blink, just kept crying into her hands. Thunder shifted beneath me, nervous, his muscles tight as steel cables. His instincts screamed not to go any closer. "Ma'am, I need to know if you're all right." She turned his head toward us, not fully, just enough that the moonlight hit her face. Her eyes were wrong. Not glowing, not demonic, just empty. So empty they reflected no light at all. Thunder snorted and stumbled backward, nearly unseating me. "Ma'am, I need to know if you're all right." She took a step toward us. The leaves beneath her feet didn't move. The branches around her didn't rustle. The air didn't shift. She wasn't touching the ground. Thunder reared without warning, and I desperately gripped the reins, trying to keep him under control. His hooves slammed down, kicking up loose dirt, and when I looked again, the woman was gone. Not walked away, not ran, just dissolved, like smoke pulled apart by unseen fingers. 1 second there, the next absorbed into the tree line. Thunder bolted several yards before I could calm him. My heart hammered so loudly it drowned out the forest. But then I heard it again. The crying behind us this time. Farther down the trail, the same tone, the same cadence, the same looping sorrow. I spun around, flashlight cutting through the dark. Nothing. No footprints, no movement, no hint of where the voice came from. Just the woods, still and waiting. I radioed into dispatch, trying to steady my voice. Unit mounted 3, possible missing person at mile marker 19, but I need additional units. This is not a standard call. But even as I said it, I knew no one else would find her. The next day, park rangers swept the entire area. No trace of a woman, no footprints, no disturbed vegetation, nothing. Except one thing. At the exact place Thunder had stopped the night before, they found the old wooden mile marker sign lying on the ground, split clean down the middle. No impact, no tool marks, just a perfect split. And no one, not even the senior rangers, could explain how it happened. A week later, another mounted officer heard crying in the same spot. A month later, a hiker reported seeing a woman in white drifting between the pines near dusk. They never found her either. Some say she's the spirit of a woman who vanished up here in the 80s. Others say she's something older, something tied to the land. I don't know what she is, but I can tell you one thing with absolute certainty. Whatever dissolved into those trees that night, it wasn't human. And it's still out there, waiting at mile marker 19.